Welcome back to The Nerdy Traveler. This episode is going to be super personal because I'm going to tell you how and why I moved from Denmark to Berlin over 13 years ago. And okay, let's be real. I didn't just wake up one day and put a dart into a board and that said Berlin. I didn't do that. And I didn't want to do that. I actually moved here because of a job. Got a job. That's the official reason I tell that, the one that you tell your mother, right? But the real reason, I felt stuck. I was living in Odense, finished my master degrees in literature, a great program, lovely little city. I could bike everywhere. I had cozy cafes, friendly phrases. My best friend was there. But I also had this gnawing feeling that I was walking in very small circles. I wasn't unhappy exactly, but I wasn't lit up. I wanted more friction, more challenges, more mess. So when the Berlin opportunity popped up, I grabbed it. And yeah, I first thought I was just switching cities. I had no idea I was actually switching versions of myself. The beginning in Berlin was very Berlin. It was what many people experience. I rented a tiny room in a shared flat with a girl I met online, a lady I met online. No idea what I was doing. I was working, figuring out public transport, trying to understand letters that came in terrifying all caps German. For 3 months, I kind of floated, half settled. Just a little homesick. But then something shifted. I found my first real apartment. It was a little creaky and nowhere near the IKEA showroom standards. But it was mine. It was a Berliner flat, after all. There was no kitchen, one room. But it was a place. And it was my place, and it was the beginning of my Berlin life. It wasn't perfect. In fact, nothing in Berlin is polished, but that's kind of the point. The city has many ways of sanding you down, then rebuilding you from the inside out. I didn't become cooler or trendier or suddenly fluent in German. Let's be honest, I'm still working on that. But I became freer. Berlin lets me try things that I would never have done in Denmark. I went to weird warehouse events. I joined art collectives. I had a long rambling conversation with strangers in 3 languages, sometimes all at once. And I failed. I failed a lot. But in those failures, I found part of myself. And a part I didn't know I needed. The me who takes the U-Bahn at midnight and doesn't panic. The me who rides in smoky cafes in Kreuzberg. The me who's comfortable being uncomfortable. I get it. Maybe you're not stuck exactly, but maybe you are craving a shift. And you don't want to move for a job. You don't need a big reason. Sometimes wanting change is reason enough, isn't it? Just know that when you move to a new city, especially a glorious chaos like Berlin, you're not just moving into a flat. You're moving into a new version of yourself. And It's okay if that person doesn't show up right away. Mine took months, years really. But now, 13 years later, I can honestly say I didn't just find Berlin. Berlin helped me find me. So now let's talk about the printer. Here's the thing that people don't tell you about moving abroad. You think you are going to spend the first few months looking at museums or going to fancy street food fairs. But you're not. You're going to spend them in lines, in literal lines. For documents, for appointments, for magical stamp that only one very serious German woman can give you between 8:14 and 8:19 on Thursdays. This isn't me being dramatic. This is Berlin. Moving to Berlin was exciting, but it was also a little brutal. Not emotional at first, but very bureaucratically brutal. For the first few weeks, I kept thinking, surely I have done the hard part already. I've moved countries, for God's sake. But no, the real boss level comes after. You haven't truly moved to Germany until you've tried to register your address, that's called the Anmeldung, getting a tax ID, opening a bank account, sort out your health insurance, and survive your first official letter with a giant red stamp on it. I cried over a printer, and that's not just a metaphor. I had to literally buy an actual printer just to handle the paperwork. That's how real it gets. Let me break it down for you, future Berliners. First thing you need, an Anmeldung. Your officially address registration. Without that, you basically don't exist. You'll need your rental contract, your landlord's confirmation, your ID, and just a little bit of patience. And maybe some pastries. Appointments can be booked up weeks in advance. So if you already know that you're moving to Berlin and you have your address and you have your lease, then please book the time at Bürgeramt as quickly as possible, even from home. Then comes the Steuer ID. Now that's your tax number. It should automatically get mailed to you on the address that you registered with your Anmeldung, but mine didn't. And then what you have to do is go to the local tax office in the area that you live, and then you get it there. It can also take a little time, so if you are like me and coming from that you have a job, then you need the tax ID. You need it for the job. Else they can't hire you. So you are constantly caught in this loop of needing things to get other things to move. Then there's the health insurance. I was so lucky that my workplace already had an associate health insurance coupled on because it was this kind of a big company. So I just took that. That was a mistake, but we can come back to that later. You have a chance to just take what you get, and then you can always redo it a little later. So the first thing I did was take this health insurance, and you'll need that for your visa. I don't need a visa because I come from Denmark, but you need it for your visa. Or at that time when I moved, the rules of free movement has just stepped into place in Berlin, and I needed the allowedness to work. I needed the okay that I was okay to work. So my job asked me for that. So I had to, after the Anmeldung and after I got the Steuer ID, I had to go up to the Bürgeramt one more time, get an appointment, and get this paper also. Yeah, so that was 3 times in a line at least. But as I said, I just went with the public insurance. You can also choose private insurance if you have high enough income, or if you are a student, you can actually choose cheaper private insurance. The problem is that you then the private insurance becomes extremely expensive when you are not a student anymore. So there is a chance to shift and change to the law-abiding public insurance. But what happened then? You have registered your address, you've gotten your tax ID, and then what happens is now the letters begin to come. And I'm telling you now, every little letter feels like a mini panic attack waiting to happen. The text is in legalese, and it's urgent, and it's long, and it often arrives 2 weeks after the action needed to be taken. So here's my advice here. Find a German friend, a co-worker, or a helpful neighbor who can decode these things for you. Or you can use an expat group in Facebook. Trust me, there's always someone who has seen the exact letter before. And yes, this is emotional and it feels overwhelming. Even with the job lined up, a room rented, and Berlin's coolness shimmering all around, you might still feel like a lost puzzle piece sometimes. And it's normal. I used to go out and explore, come home mentally drained just from trying to order food or understand signs at the Bürgeramt. It's not just a culture shock. It's thousands of tiny adjustments every day. But with every win, opening a bank account, finding the right U-Bahn line, getting your name on the mailbox, you feel stronger. You're not just surviving a new system, you're learning to navigate it. You're becoming the version of you who handles German fine without breaking into tears. Okay, maybe 1 tear, but quietly. So if you're thinking of moving abroad, especially to Berlin, here is my advice. Make a checklist, lots of them. Buy a printer. Seriously, you need a printer. Have coffee breaks between the appointments. Ask for help. There's a whole expat community, especially in Berlin, that's ready to share tips, translations, and dark jokes about the Anmeldung process. And most of all, remember, it's okay to feel more overwhelmed. Everyone you meet who lives here also cried over paperwork at some point. And if they didn't, they're lying. Or a German. Or possibly both. You know that feeling when you're click with a city. Not because it's pretty or convenient or because it feels like a puzzle you want to solve. That's Berlin for me. You don't arrive in Berlin and instantly understand it. Berlin doesn't present itself like Paris with boulevards and postcard views. It doesn't try to charm you. Berlin makes you work for it. And if you're a nerd like me, grew up asking why more than where's the bar, then you will fall deeply in love with that challenge. Take the architecture. It's wild, it's layered, it's like someone gave a teenager a history book and a bucket of concrete and say, go wild. You walk past sleek modern buildings, then suddenly there's a 19th century palace, and bam, next to it is a Soviet-style monolith or a burned-out squat covered in murals. Once spent 3 hours just researching one building on Karl Marx Allee. 3 hours. That's Berlin. 1 minute you're on a tram, the next you are in a Wikipedia spiral about Cold War urban planning. And the neighborhoods. Don't even get me started on the neighborhoods. Berlin is a patchwork of wildly different pieces, local districts, each with its own vibe. Prenzlauer Berg has organic bakeries, stylish parents, and oat milk with everything. Kreuzberg is street art, punk history, and Turkish market. Neukölln is chaotic, creative, and a little grimy, but totally alive. You don't just visit Berlin. You study it. You collect its quirks like souvenirs. Like, why is there so many Spätis, the late night kiosk? Why do Berlin ignore red lights, even with kids around? And why is clubbing treated like a spiritual ritual? These are the deep, nerdy questions that kept me out exploring day after day. And then there's the language. Learning German was not easy. But it was fun in brain-twisting kind of ways. Long, compounded words. Bring it on. It's like Aufenthaltsgenehmigung. That's residence permit. Or Heißkörperinluftungsschlüssel, which is the little key you use to let the air out of your radiator. I used to write down new German words like spells in a wizard book. I quizzed myself in the U-Bahn. Spoiler, my accent betrayed me, but people smile even when they see I try. That's all part of the charm. But maybe the most beautiful part of Berlin is its rewards you curiosity. More than you ask. Explore or nerd out. The more that you ask, explore or nerd out, the more the city opens itself for you. There are stories in each crack. Histories on the sidewalk, literally with Stolpenstein brass plaques honoring Holocaust victims right at your feet. Entire areas unfold into alleyways, clubs inside old power plants, artists selling prints of under S-Bahn tracks. It's a place that teaches you not just about the world, but also about yourself as an observer. What do you notice? What makes you stop walking and go, wait, what is that? So here's my advice for new Berliners or future Berliners who feel a little nerdy, a little curious, and maybe a little lost. Treat the city like a scavenger hunt. Don't just go to the Brandenburger Gate and call it the day. Wander the side streets. Look up. Ask questions. Let Berliners reward your curiosity with layers that you didn't even know were there. Because in this city, you're not just a tourist or even a resident, you're a detective, wanderer, a nerd. So you've survived the Anmeldung, learned to love spetties, and no longer flinch every time Deutsche Post delivers an officially looking letter. First of all, congratulations, you're still standing. But now comes the harder part, the thing that is harder to put in a checklist. How to actually make this city, this new city, feel like home. Not just livable, but navigable, so that you navigate it. It's a home. The word we throw around, but which is much more than furniture and Wi-Fi. For me, it started slowly. I finally found my own flat, tiny, a bit too warm in the summer, a bit too cold in the winter, but it was mine. I still remember the first weekend I stayed in and cooked in my little Berliner kitchen. And if you don't know what a Berliner kitchen is, it's a put together of different elements that you found somewhere, or old furniture that you used somewhere else before that you now use. It was just me doing pasta, but it was like staking a claim. Like I wasn't just visiting anymore, I was building something. And then came the rituals, the little things that added up to a life. The bakery began to know my order, my favorite coffee shop set high on the street. The grocery store, where I finally found out where they hid the butter and what yeast was called. I put up pictures, I figured out the recycling rules, well, almost. I finally understood how to work the weird heating system. I know you've settled in your apartment and it starts smelling a little like you. When the guy at the Spetty finally recognizes you, and when the Google Maps history isn't just museums and visa offices, but also brunch spots and bookstores and the one place that you keep meaning to go back to. Making friends took time. Berlin is international, but it can be a tough nut to crack socially. People are friendly, but not instantly open. I joined local meetups, said yes to awkward dinners, met friends of friends. It wasn't always smooth, but over time I built a circle. I could message when I felt homesick, people I could laugh with about all the absurd things I still have to learn. Like, why does every building have a different system for taking out the trash? There were also quiet moments, like walking home at night and realizing I know the way. Not checking maps, not feeling lost. Just walking through my keys, headphones on, streetlights flickering, and thinking, this is my city now. Berlin hadn't changed. I had. And here's the thing. Making a home abroad isn't a dramatic moment. It's a series of small wins. The first dinner party you host. The first time you fix something in your flat without texting a friend. The first birthday you celebrate. All of those boring, beautiful, deep, real moments that you tell your brain you're safe here, you belong. You're allowed to exhale. And if you're lucky, Berlin will meet you halfway. With its weirdness, its rough edges, its unexpected warmth. Not perfect, but yours. So if you're out there wondering if the new city that you moved into will ever make you feel like home, give it time. Give it some weird rituals. Give it IKEA furniture and messy friendship, long walks that start with no plan. Because eventually, if without even noticing, you stop saying, I live in Berlin, and start saying, I am a Berliner. Even if your accent still gives you away. So, you know what they don't tell you in guidebooks? Culture shock. Culture shock isn't always a big thing like languages and laws. Sometimes it's tiny moments that trip you up. Like when you walk into a party and cheerfully say, hi everyone, and they look up you like that if you kick the dog. Which brings us to me, fresh from Denmark, at my first Berliner party. The Danish culture is quiet but polite. People don't shout. They keep their personal spaces and there's a social rhythm. So imagine me with all my little polite habits walking into a Kreuzberg flat party, expecting small talk, light drinks, a chill conversation. And instead I got techno that rattled my bones, people in full conversation with their dogs, and no one offering snacks whatsoever. I stood in the kitchen holding my coat for about 20 minutes before I realized no one's gonna take it. This isn't Denmark. This is Berlin. You hang your own coat, you pour your own drink, and never ask someone what they do for work. Lesson learned. But that's the thing with culture shocks. They sneak up on you. Not when you first arrive, but when you're trying to live normally. Grocery stores, mailboxes, crossing the street. Once had a tiny little standoff with a woman in Lidl because I didn't move fast enough in the checkout. And if you've ever not packed your groceries in a time in Germany, you know this fear. And then there's the language moments. Oh, German. I tried. I practiced every day. Even used Duolingo at some point. I had a little phrase book in my pocket like somebody's sweet, confused grandfather. But accents are tough and grammar are tougher, and Berliners often just answer you in English, which is both kind and completely disheartening. One time I proudly ordered 3 Berliner Pfannkuchen at a bakery. And the woman replied, would you like those in a bag? In perfect English. And I nodded like a defeated wizard. Yes, please, in a bag. For my feelings. But here's where it gets interesting. Culture shock isn't a failure. It's a sign that you're engaging. You are out there trying, adjusting, laughing at yourself. And honestly, the mistakes you have is the mistakes where you learn. Like, always bring cash. So many places don't take cards. Still 13 years old after I started, still a lot of places in Berlin don't take cards. Never assume that the public toilet is free, which it isn't. Always say hello when you enter a shop and tschüss when you exit. You can either say tschüss or ciao. Don't talk loudly on public transport, like ever. And jaywalking is technical illegal, but everybody still does it, except near schools. And there is a whole social code about that. And slowly, bit by bit, you'll adapt. Stop trying to make Berlin behave like your hometown. Stop measuring it for what's it missing and start noticing what it adds. Like how deeply Berliners value personal space and freedom. And how weirdly beautiful it is that people of all ages sunbathe in parks like it's the most natural thing in the world. And it is. And yes, they'll be naked. Get used to it. You learn to ride the U-Bahn without checking signs. You stop panicking over every envelope. You find yourself cursing in German when the BVG app crashes. And one day, someone new will move. And they'll make the same mistakes you did. And you'll smile and you'll say, hey, yeah, I've been here. And you'll be fine. Just don't block the self-checkout. That's when you know you didn't just adapt. You grew. You became part of the city. You know the moment when a new life in a new city stops feeling like an experiment. When it stops being just for now and starts becoming normal. But one day I realized I wasn't just figuring out how to live in Berlin. I was actually living here. That's wild. It didn't happen overnight. The early months is a blur of paperwork, social awkwardness, and ordering the wrong things at restaurants. But eventually I found my rhythm. I had a job that challenged me. I had people to call. I had a favorite pizza place and a backup pizza place. I wasn't surviving. I had a life. My work life became a big anger. First, I moved here for the job. But what kept me here was how Berlin made me breathe creatively. It's the DUI spirit in Berlin that everyone's side project is actually their real project. You meet somebody at a party and they'll say, I'm a web developer /DJ /banana bread pop-up founder. And no one blinks. Berlin wants you to build weird things, reward you for curiosity and experimentation. And if you're a bit of a nerd, hi, that's a dream come true. There is moments in every move where the dust settles and the chaos becomes a pattern. Not all at once, not with fireworks and dramatic declarations, it just happens. One day you'll realize you're not surviving anymore. You're living, you're choosing, you're building. And it works. That's where Berlin got me. At first everything was new, overwhelming, and mildly hilarious. But then the routine starts forming, almost like muscle memory. I finished work, I just know it's time for an evening walk. No destination, just headphones in, city buzzing, and the feeling of moving through my version of Berlin. It became one of my favorite parts of the day. The quiet space between what I had to do and what I wanted to feel. Weekends became special too. No more staying at home, overthinking everything, Googling how to Berlin. I started going on these tiny exploration trips, not big touristy things. Just picking a neighborhood or a park and wandering. Sometimes I found markets, sometimes weird little statues. Once I accidentally ended up in middle of a medieval fair with sword fights and everything. I would go again. But I also made space for the cozy nerd life. Sometimes building a life isn't just about being out all the time. Sometimes it's just about having your sofa and your snacks, and your feelings don't have to go anywhere. And that's a feeling that's okay. Berlin is fast paced, yes, but it doesn't demand performance. You can hide for a bit, you can recharge, and no one will judge you for it. I also cracked the Berliner code of public transport, and that changed everything. Suddenly, the city shrank. What felt far was now just a U-Bahn ride away. I found shortcuts, quiet trams, or even my favorite stations. Yes, I actually have one. I knew which lines to avoid during rush hour. I knew which U-Bahn doors opened closest to the stairs. If you know, you know. And somewhere along the way, I'm still finding my hangout spots. The cafe with the weird wallpaper, the bookstore with the sofa in the back corner, the bench by the canal that always caught the sun in the late afternoon. These became my new anchors, my comfort zones. They didn't just exist in Berlin, they existed in my Berlin. So yeah, building a life here wasn't one big leap, it was a series of small wins. I was evenings where I didn't feel like going out, but went for a walk anyway. There was lazy Sundays, long transit rides, random museum visits, and evenings curled up with a controller in my hand. It was giving myself permission to both be a traveler and a homebody. And the best part, I didn't have to choose one version of life. I got to blend it. Berlin doesn't care what kind of life you build as long as it's yours. Whether you are out clubbing till the sunrise or you watch fantasy TV with a face mask on, the city still belongs to you and you belong to it. So if you're wondering when the chaos becomes routine or if your scattered puzzle pieces will ever fit together again, they will. Just give it time. You'll wake up one day and check your calendar and step out of the door and realize, hey, this actually works. And when it does, that's your Berliner magic. So picture this, a sunny spring day, I've just moved to Berlin, I head to Tiergarten for a peaceful walk, and within 5 minutes I see a fully naked man reading a newspaper on a towel. Just vibing. It's like the most normal thing in the world. And apparently it is. That's when I realized that Berlin wasn't just another European city. It was a creature on its own. And it was full of surprises. Some beautiful, some weird, some that made me laugh out loud in the U-Bahn, which, by the way, you should not do. Freedom. Yeah, I'm talking about my first surprise. Freedom. I mean deep, unapologetic freedom. Want to wear platform boots with neon shorts on a Tuesday morning? Go for it. Want to walk your cat on a leash? You'll get a nod of respect. People in Berlin don't just accept individuality. They celebrate it. It's like the whole city is in a silent agreement. Be as weird as you need to be. We got other things to worry about. Second surprise, Berliners are not rude. They're just direct. I used to think that everybody here was a bit cold. No small talking, no sugarcoating, no fake smiles. But once I adjusted, it felt oddly refreshing. If somebody doesn't like your idea, they just tell you they don't like your idea. If you ask a question, you'll get an answer. No fluff, no detour. Honestly, once you stop trying to decode politeness, it's kind of liberating. But yes, it took me a while to stop apologizing for existing at bakery counters. My third surprise is the dogs. Oh, oh, yeah, it's the dogs. They're everywhere. On trams, in cafes, at brunch, in bookshops. And they're very well behaved. Like, I passed my PhD in manners well behaved. I once saw a golden retriever wait at a crossway, look both way, and then cross by itself. Meanwhile, I'm standing there trying to figure out which way the traffic is coming from. Berliner dogs, they're just next level. And another surprise was the bureaucracy. If German paperwork was a sport, it would be an Olympic event. And Berlin adds its own special spice. Appointments that vanish mysteriously, office hours that defy any logic, and letters written entirely in official German with words longer than my life expectancy. But Berliners isn't just strange for the sake of it, and that's the beauty in its surprise. The stumbling into a techno street parade on your walk, on your way to buy a soap dish, or hearing four languages spoken on a single train ride, and finding a cafe inside a former public toilet. And yes, it's real, and yes, it's kind of great. The burgers are amazing. The real surprise, though, how much the city grows on you. Berlin doesn't dazzle in unusual ways. It doesn't show off its shiny perfection. It's gritty. It's honest. Unpredictable. But over time, all those little weird moments start adding up, and suddenly you realize you love it. Not despite its surprises, but because of them. So if you're thinking of moving here or just visiting, be prepared to be surprised. Sometimes it's joyful, sometimes it's confusing, but it's always interesting. And honestly, that's the Berliner way. If Berlin were a game, paperwork would be the boss level. And not just any boss, like Kafkaesque German language final boss with 27 forms, 3 appointments, and 2 plot twists. You learn to gather forms like side quests, to print in triplicates, to carry your birth certificate, to buy a SIM card. Okay, slight exaggeration there, but only slight. One of my favorite moments. I got a completely baffling letter from the Deutsche Rentenversicherung, which for my non-German friends is the public pension system, German public pension system. The letter said, "We are receiving payments over your salary for the pension form, but who are you? Please explain." That's it. No phone number, no real instructions, just looming questions. Who are you? Existential crisis unlocked. I sat there staring at the paper, wondering, do I call them? Do I write a letter? Do I show up to their office holding my passport and whisper, "Ich bin..." Yeah. At the end, I sent a letter, I emailed them and called, and I'm still not entirely sure if they believe I exist. But hey, they stopped sending letters, so I call that a win. And here's the thing, you'll get through it. You just have to be patient, you have to be organized, and above all, you need that printer. Seriously, not a joke. Moving to Berlin without a printer is going on a camping trip without a tent, or shoes, or hope. Let me give you a survival checklist. Anmeldung, health insurance, tax ID, bank account, residence permit, and pension registration. You all will get these. You all have to get these. And they're important. Anmeldung first. Do it ASAP. Health insurance, take the public one. You don't need a private one. If you are not a student, you don't need it. And don't skip it. They will find you. Tax ID, you need it to open a bank account. You also need your job contract to open a bank account. You want a bank account then, preferably one that speaks English and doesn't charge 20 euros a month for breathing. A residence permit if you're not from EU, and book the Ausländerbehörde appointment early, like way early, like when you're still thinking about moving. Pension registration, apparently even the government doesn't know who you are. But it's not all doom and Deutsch. There are Facebook groups full of people who are helping each other. There are expat-friendly services that guide you through the maze. And once you've done it once, it honestly becomes easier. You stop walking into offices like a boss. Yes, I bought 4 copies. No, I haven't cried today. Let's do this. And what's the weirdest part? Somewhere between the appointment slips and public office visits, you start feeling to become a little more local. You understand the system. It's not perfectly well, but you understand it enough. You survive your first scary letters. You decode a form without Googling. You get your first piece of official mail with your full name and address, and it just hits you. I live here now. Welcome to Berlin, my friend. You made it through the jungle. And now you've earned the badge. Bureaucracy conqueror, level 1. Money. It's not so glamorous part of travel and moving abroad, or well, being a grown-up. When I first moved to Berlin, I knew it wasn't the most expensive European capital, but that didn't mean cheap. Especially when you're paid monthly, the rent hits the first, your health insurance grabs a chunk, and your fridge looks at you like, so hummus and old bread again? Let's talk numbers. Rent. It depends on your timing and your luck. When I first arrived, I rented a room that was manageable. Later, I got my own flat. While it's not a palace, it was my little slice of Moabit where I live. These days, a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent area might cost you anywhere from 800 to 1200 euros if you find one. But guess what? You also need to pay Nebenkosten, and that's German for surprise extra, like heating, water, building fees. Think of that as the DLC for your apartment. Groceries. Berlin wins here big time. Between Aldi, Lidl, Penny and Rewe, you can eat very well on a budget if you don't mind carrying heavy bags up 4 flights of stairs. I cook a lot at home, partly to save money, partly because I still haven't emotionally recovered from paying 14 euros for an avocado toast. I mean, it wasn't even ripe. Transportation. I love the Berlin transportation system. You can get almost everywhere with a combo of U-Bahn, S-Bahn, trams and buses. A monthly BVG ticket is around 49 to 63 euros, depending on the zones. And if you're under 27 or a student, it's even cheaper. But here's a Berliner pro tip. If you're broke for a few days, walking is free, full of weird graffiti and spontaneous techno. health insurance. Yes, the German system has a health insurance and it's good. Like, really good. But it's not free. Most people go with the public providers like TK, Technische Krankenkasse, or AOK. And if you're working, part of your salary goes directly to cover it. So when your payslip feels smaller than expected, that's your health insurance saying, don't worry, we have your back. Also your lungs, spleen, and dental cleaning. And yes, they pay your dental cleaning. And now the important stuff. Budgeting. I'm not Marie Kondo with spreadsheets or anything, but I do a few simple things that help me survive Berlin monthly tango. Fixed cost first. I set aside rent, insurance, and transport first. No excuses. Budget. For groceries, I give myself a weekly limit. I try not to cry in the Rewe organic aisle. Fun fund. I keep a little fun money for cafes, games, those random €2 Vietnamese iced coffee that somehow tastes like heaven. And hey, when things gets a little tight, I become the free event master. Berlin has so many free exhibitions, open air festivals, flea markets, and even concerts. You just need the energy and maybe a weird sense of direction. So yeah, Berlin is affordable if you're smart about it. You learn to skip overpriced brunches. You embrace the local bakery's €1.30 cheese roll and get creative with the entertainment. Because let's be honest, you didn't move to Berlin to get rich. You moved to Berlin for freedom, fun, and weird art. And the chance to live a little differently. And with a little planning, a decent spreadsheet, and maybe a reusable coffee cup, you can live well without burning through your bank account. So, all my fellow nerdy travelers and Berlin dreamers, yes, the city will challenge you, but it will also surprise you on how livable it really is if you learn how to dance with the budget gods. Just don't forget to pay your radio tax. They will find you. So that's my Berlin story. From Danish literary nerd in Odense stuck and searching to certified Berliner city guide, happily lost in market hall, river walks, and occasional existential crisis over German paperwork. I didn't plan to stay forever, but Berlin has a fun way of growing on you. Not with glitter and postcards, but with graffiti, quiet benches, and weird joy of finding a cafe that actually remembers your name. And suddenly, it's home. If you've been dreaming about Berlin, thinking about moving, or even want to explore this city through the eyes of somebody who made every possible mistake, you don't, so you don't have to, then welcome to the Nerdy Traveler. This is where we get nerdy about places, people, food, culture, and what it really means to start a new chapter somewhere else. And I'm here to tell you, it's okay to start small. With one room, one walk, one strange letter from the Rentenversicherung asking you, who are you? You'll figure it out. And I'll help you where I can. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment with your own Berliner story or a question or fears about the Anmeldung. And stick around. Because whether you're passing through or ready to build a life here, Berlin has spaces for all of us weird, wandering souls. And I'll be here, walking the city and sharing the journey, one cobblestone at a time. So, as always, stay curious, stay nerdy, but do keep exploring.